The all-new Yamaha V6 Offshore F350. It's a featherweight knockout, the lightest 350 horsepower outboard on the water, exhilarating boating and incredible control in a powerfully light design. The Yamaha V6 Offshore F350.
The Fishing News is sponsored by these fine partners.
It's April 25th, 2024, the final Thursday and final weekend of April here, and we're just a couple of days off of Tuesday's full moon, so we do have a lot to talk about since last week's video fishing forecast. The final weekend of tog ahead for spring here at the Jersey Shore, and the first days of May coming up ahead. Looks like we have plenty of opportunity on both the inshore and, yes, offshore grounds as well. More on that in just a second. Jim Hutchinson, New Jersey, Delaware Bay edition of the Fisherman Magazine. I'm here in Essex County this week out at Fairfield Fishing Tackle out in North Jersey. It is perhaps the oldest continually run fishing tackle business in the entire Garden State. We'll get a chance to hear from Cheryl G. about what it takes to keep a shop going after more than a century of customer service. We'll do that in just a couple of minutes. So a buddy of mine on Friday, a buddy of mine back in Brick, on Friday he lets me know I'm going to go out drum fishing on Saturday. Going to go run down to Seaside south of the 37 bridge, see if I can't find those drum. He says to me, yeah, you know, if we can get on them on Saturday, you want to go on Sunday. Now keep in mind, Sunday was the print edition deadline for the May edition of the Fisherman Magazine. My experience is not to go very far on Sunday. I got to make the donuts, right? So I typically won't go offshore. I don't want to get hung up. But I said, yeah, we can go out inshore for a few hours in the morning if you find those drums. So again, Saturday he gets down there. He's running around all over Barnegat Bay. He says, nada. He says, but I do think we saw some blues in South Barnegat Bay. So then I get a text from Frank at Gabriel Tackle. It's about 3:30 on Saturday. He says, bluefish are here up by the Route 35 bridge. That's according to Chris Collar, who checked in with him there. So that's great to see, just as we've been talking about for weeks, right? We've been talking about this for several weeks, the full moon on Tuesday, April 23rd, and hoping that we'll get a push of fish coming into our local waters in the days leading up to what they call in April the pink moon, which is a great song by Nick Drake, by the way, but it's a terrible name for a moon because it's not really pink. It's actually a fish moon or an egg moon, or Shawanamekwee, for example. That's shad moon, the name given by the Lenape tribe, which of course is our primary New Jersey, Delaware Bay Native American tribe, which aptly named this week's full moon after the spawning run of shad from the ocean up the river into the ocean. That's an anadromous species, shad, and very much like stripers. So let's call the April moon the fish moon, the way the Lenape tribe did in honor of shad and striped bass. So yeah, the moon is here, and so are the bluefish, right on schedule. Great news. But then I get a text from another buddy with another great surprise about 20 to 30 miles northeast of where that first bluefish was in the Barnegat Bay. And if you watched the very end of last week's video fishing forecast, there was a tip from Magic Tail Maestro Dante Sorrente about bluefin just offshore last week among the tog boats. So Captain Kevin Goldberg of Mariner Sport Fishing, he's out of Point Pleasant, but he's keeping his boat up on the Raritan Bay for that striper bite. But like everyone else reporting last week, Kevin told me that he's getting lots of marks on the machine, but the stripers just won't bite. So he's got this Friday charter last week, and it doesn't go very well. He picks at some fish, and he gets the charter on some fish. But he's got a personal day on Saturday. He's going out with his buddy Mike. And rather than get frustrated by chasing stripers around that won't bite, he says to Mike, let's go offshore, take a boat ride, see if we can't find some bluefin tuna. Why not? So he and Mike Resitar, they head out of Sandy Hook on Saturday, 20 miles south, end up about 10 to 12 miles off the beach. Now, Kevin told me that they just decided to take this boat ride looking for tuna. Why not? They find some birds wheeling and diving, just a few of them, good structure. They said, okay, let's put the lines out. And I think they had the chatters out. They started dragging the chatters around 9 a.m. and at 9:35, they hooked up with this bluefin tuna. 4 hours later, Kevin and Mike boated this 112-incher, headed into Brielle Yacht Club, where this trophy bluefin weighed in at 718 pounds. Now, this giant is sure to launch 1 million vessels this weekend. If you think back to April's in the past, when those giants were there, it's a sub-quota, so it's going to get used up rather quickly. So I would expect this weekend, weather-wise, we'll talk about that in a minute, to be conducive to folks chasing bluefin tuna on the bluefin grounds this week. Anyway, back to the story. I went back to my buddy Ryan. I texted him back. The guy who was drumming on Saturday, right? He was going to go out again on Sunday and take me drumming, but I told him about the big bluefin that was reported, and apparently he had already found out about it because he said to me, quote, "No, I'm going giant fishing with a buddy tomorrow morning." So I was out. It's a small world, man. It's like the Coconut Telegraph. Find out about a bluefin or a bluefish or any of the likes, it gets out there pretty quickly. So anyway, back to Fairfield. We know the bluefin are there. We know the bluefish are there. We know the weak fish have arrived. And the stripers, they have lockjaw. But here at Fairfield Fishing Tackle, with Cheryl G. and Joe and the rest of the crew, you will find Cheryl in here just about every single day, managing a business that spanned over 100 years. The Meyer family started Newark Sinker Company in 1913 in Newark, supplying sinkers to fishing boats along the East Coast. In the 1950s, they moved their retail business to the Fairfield area to begin selling sinkers and fishing tackle to the recreational fishing community. So all local anglers have this opportunity in Fairfield. So the Meyers moved to this location at 101 Route 46 East in Fairfield in the 80s, then sold the business to Alan Corey in 1992. Cheryl bought it 12 years ago and today focuses on both saltwater and freshwater supplies, from largemouth pike and trout, even muskie, to stripers, flukes, sea bass, and tog, just to name a few. Over a century of recreational fishing tackle in the Garden State, servicing the needs of New Jersey anglers since 1913. It's pretty impressive. I had an opportunity to speak quickly to Cheryl about what that customer service means.
I've always loved retail, and this opportunity came up in 2012, and I decided to purchase a fishing store. I had worked part-time in the fishing industry for 20 years and thought this would be a good fit. So we're more of a service to the customer kind of place. We like to tell people, hey, what are you fishing for? This is the kind of rod you need, or bring your rod and reel in, we'll get you the line you need. We've got lures, rods, reels, some frozen bait, some refrigerated bait. Almost all.
So I never did get drumming on Sunday morning or Saturday. I never took advantage of that Barnegat Bay bite. But I don't know if they're necessarily gone. I think they're just spread out. So I do believe that there are more black drums spread out throughout the Barnegat Bay. Still getting some reports of them popping up on the Raritan. They're certainly in the Great Bay, Little Egg area. And in no time at all, those Cape May fleet, those Cape May boats are going to be running and gunning for black drum throughout the month of May and June. I have said it before, though, I keep those print Sundays free in case of emergencies. And this past Sunday, it was the May edition of the Fisherman Magazine going to print. Lee Wakefield on the cover. You'll find that in shops. You'll find that in Fairfield Fishing Tackle by the end of the week in all your favorite shops, your local Wawa, you subscribers. You should get it in the mail. But look for Lee on the cover. I thought it was an appropriate photo, Lee with a fluke, because we are just 9 days away from the New Jersey summer flounder or fluke season. So I hope you're stocked up on the gulp and the bucktails and the rigs and everything else that you need. There are a couple of solid fluke articles in that May edition. Flounder, of course, if you're below the Mullica line. Skinny Water Fluke by Nick Konicheski, that's on page 24. An Indian River Flounder Pounding piece by Eric Burnley on page 28. B-Stav Fishing kicks it off by applying the Padawan-style slow pitch or snap jigging. The snap jigging style that was picked up from John Padawan on Long Island. He applies the snap jigging to Back Bay stripers in Atlantic and Cape May County. There are also smallmouth strategies from George Shower, the Pocono outdoors guy, who we'll hear from in just a couple of moments, as well as a cool fishing knife story from Captain John Raguso for all the blades you need from the boat to the fillet table this season. You open up that glossy edition of the May edition of the Fisherman Magazine, the story lineup is there in the table of contents. Another 5 great feature pieces. You've got big stripers on big flies, soft plastics for weak fish, shopping around for a fishing kayak, yeah, that's in there as well, and of course, spring blues. Get to the chopper! There's a bomb in there! Get out now! It's my best Arnold Schwarzenegger. Yes, the choppers have arrived. Nick played around with the Arnold Schwarzenegger. That's in there. And of course, the Coastal Kayak Clash is back for 2024. I'm going to let Tim Smith tell you more about that.
The Coastal Kayak Clash is back for 2024. Win this Old Town Sportsman PDL 120 fully outfitted by yachattack.com. Our second place winner will take home this Humminbird Helix 7. Win third place and you walk away $500 richer. And there are many other ways to win as well. We've got reels from Daiwa and lures and gear from Yozori. If you fish from a kayak and you're a Fisherman subscriber, you're eligible to enter the CKC. Catch one of 8 qualifying species. Photograph them next to a flat ruler showing the Fisherman tag with your kayak clearly visible and get yourself on the leaderboard. This kayak-only tournament kicks off May 1st and ends November 30th. Get all the details at thefisherman.com.
So now let's talk about one problem with the May edition. As you probably saw on Tuesday, because we sent an email blast to everybody from publisher Mike Caruso, we had the wrong fishing reports loaded into the May edition. We had the previous week. If you didn't see the previous week, you've got those. But you miss those headlines of the bluefin and the bluefish and everything else. But that's okay. Print errors, they happen. We did load the previous week's fishing reports into a PDF that was sent via email to everybody on Tuesday, but you can also find that on thefisherman.com. And of course, all the reports that we do every week to go to print, digital print, they're also on thefisherman.com. You just go to the reports tab, download it, and you can find all of the reports there. But mea culpa, mea maxima culpa. So all the great features for the month of May are loaded in that printed glossy, and get the reports by downloading the full PDF from thefisherman.com or going over there to North Central, South Jersey, Delaware, Maryland, the Surf Report, and of course JB Casper's regular freshwater report. One thing all of our field editors hit hard this week in their reports, except for JB, was the rapidly closing window on New Jersey spring blackfish season. The final day is coming up on Tuesday, April 30th. Then we don't get a shot to keep blackfish again until the nominal 1 fish limit returns on August 1st. Some folks who like to fish for tog by boat don't seem to understand why even have it. Well, that's for spear fishermen. Spear fishermen get the last part of summer, and it's also great for some of those jetty jocks during the latter, what do you call it, dog days of summer. I can't even think of what a dog day of summer would look like. Although this week is certainly warming up quite a bit. A lot of good fish continue to be caught and released by a lot of the dedicated toggers. I say released because a lot of the guys like Frank Mahalik are releasing those jumbos, this 13-pounder that he caught on Jerry Postorino's Fishmonger earlier this week. Personally, I'm hoping to give it one last shot at some of those blackfish in the back near the bridge structure on the sod bank, something like that, trying to get the boat splashed. I'm hoping I'm doing that today. For a few tips and tactics for getting on those last spring tog at the Jersey Shore before the window shuts, let's jump on Open Boat with Jenny Ackerman.
Hey everyone, welcome to this week's Open Boat. Today we are here at the fillet table. We're not filleting fish, but we're talking fish. So we're going into some tips and tricks on targeting my favorite species, but in the spring. Now, if you didn't already read the thumbnail or listen to Jim's little intro, my favorite species to fish for, drum roll please, is the blackfish, of course. So, targeting blackfish in the spring is a little bit different compared to targeting them in the winter months, and there's some factors that get affected into it. Where are they hanging out at? You know, they migrate offshore, are they hanging out inshore? What are they feeding on? What's their spawn pattern? Like, how are they acting to that? There's a ton of different factors, of course, with every species as they go through the different cycle of months that affect them year round. So, going into the specifics of targeting spring run blackfish, first off is the type of bait you want to use and how that bait affects the type of rig / jig that you use. It doesn't really affect the jig, it will affect the rig. So, going into the type of bait you want to use, specifically like in the spring, blackfish have softer lips, so they don't want to be crunching down on a crab because of that hard shell. So what are you going to use instead? You're going to use soft baits. What type of soft baits are you going to use? You can do sandworms, you can do cooked shrimp, and you could do salted clams. So you can go to your local tackle shop and get yourself some salted clams and some worms, and you can even go to Wegmans and get yourself some shrimp. Make sure you don't eat it. Save it for your blackfish trip. So since I have the clams here, I'm going to show you an easy way to rig them up. Of course, if you're a jig fisherman, you just pop a little piece on your jig and toss it down. But you know, us ladies over here, we gotta stay classy and fish a rig. So I'm gonna show you just a simple rig to tie that you can use for spring blackfish. So I have the rig right here. You can see it, it's just a doubled snell hook right here. You got your owner hooks spaced out like this far apart with your loop tied up at the top, and you can attach that to your top shot. And of course, if you do a Belmar rig, wrap your stinker around and you're all good to go. So since I have these delicious surf clams here, we're gonna fish out 2 perfect primo pieces of salted clam. So the type of pieces you want to use for specifically this type of rig, they look like this. Looks like a good old snot loogie right there with the little sucker piece at the top. Clam anatomy, we know. So you're gonna take this bottom hook, you're gonna hook it through that fatty section of the clam, just like that, easy peasy. Now some guys, if you're using like a snafu rig, they'll take that second hook and put it through that clam. I like to do the more the merrier. I will fish out a second little piece of clam snot and hook it on that same piece, and you just have a delicious clam string rig right there ready for you to drop down to the bottom. And what's cool about using clam or soft baits in the spring, especially on the boat, is the bycatch. Don't even get me started about all the cod you can get, even some ling. Like you get a trifecta day out there fishing on a party boat. You get blackfish, you get cod, and you get ling. A delicious spread to have take home to dinner. Like, I'm just getting so excited thinking about it. I'm literally starving at the thought. Not so much starving at the look of these salted clams, but the ling, blackfish, and cod sounds absolutely delicious right now. So the bite going into using this type of soft bait rig here is gonna be a little bit different compared to a crab bite. Of course, the blackfish, you know, they still have their terrible teeth that orthodontists would love to work on. They will crunch up a crab bite by bite. That gives you the traditional little tap, tap, tap bite that you'll get in the winter. But if you're using a clam, as you drop this down and you're waiting for your bite, you can picture good old Tony Soprano slurping up some spaghetti, because that's basically what the blackfish are gonna do. A lot of the times when you're fishing a soft bait like the clam, they'll literally slurp up the clam and swim off with your rig. So you'll feel them literally swimming away, and that's when you set the hook. So basically that's just a little rundown on the type of rigs that you'd wanna be using if you're targeting spring blackfish, and the types of baits. And of course, make sure you follow all the rules and regulations for every species you target, and specifically remember their spawn season. Especially if you catch a big female out there, you may want to consider releasing her. See you guys on next week's Open Boat.
I would remind you, of course, that those tog that Jenny was just talking about are also available on the jetty rocks as well, terra firma. So if you're looking to, you know, work your way along the canal, the jetty rocks, some of the back sod banks. I know Atlantic City has been hot for some time. Barnegat Light, the South Jetty has been as well. In fact, Elliot Sanchez emailed me earlier this week saying, yeah, I'm catching him from shore. You can see he's a dedicated shore surfcaster because that background is all blacked out, so you can't see where he actually is. I'm getting a lot of great photos sent by the fisherman readers and video fishing forecast viewers this week. Nick Rowe emailed me over the weekend on Sunday. He said things are alive and well as of Sunday. Along those beaches, he plugged up this 40-inch striped bass somewhere in Cape May County. He said he lost at least a couple of good ones as well. And that Delaware River spawning run continues with some outstanding catch and release fish as those fish move up the Delaware to spawn. Another Philly area special from Derek Fredrickson this week, who continues to hammer at those big fish. And again, bracing them, holding them carefully letting them go. So that's a pretty good run so far. And striper action has improved out front. In Beach Talk by Nick Honachewski, which you'll find online at thefisherman.com, he's saying there's a lot more fish on the front open beaches. We talked about Cape May, of course, before with Nick Rowe, but Nick Honachewski says Atlantic into Ocean County, Monmouth County as well. A lot of clams, a lot of bloods, but in no time at all, we're going to be starting to plug up some good-sized fish. And of course, those bluefish I talked about in there in the back bay, some of the smaller cocktail style blues, but I would expect some truly good-sized blues invading our inlets at some point, even in the next couple of days. That inlet invasion with those giant-headed racers. In fact, Andy at Riptide Bait and Tackle texted me on Wednesday from Brigantine. He said this bluefish was caught by Dan Massimini on a plug, 34 inches, 10 pounds, 3 ounces. That's the day after the full moon. The day before the full moon, I received an image from Brandy Hillegrass from American Angler, which I believe was on the beaches of LBI somewhere, 12.5 pounds, 38 inches. Another chopper. And based on this image shared by the folks at Grumpy's in Seaside this week, mackerel on the beach. Holy mackerel, indeed. Yeah, that's the type of bait push we need to see some of those mackerel, more blues, more bluefin, and some better striped bass action, and yeah, weak fish as well. Be on the hunt now in the back bays at night. Get those pink zooms loaded up with finesse and cheddar oil, because the tide runner weak fish season is definitely upon us. Now, the Raritan Bay should typically be en fuego on this moment, at this time. Usually we're just having an epic bite, and it has been a little bit picky. A lot of folks marking a lot of fish, but with the amount of fresh water that's coming down from inland, going into Raritan Bay, when I was coming here to Fairfield and driving past the Passaic is still high. All that water's got to rush out into the salt at some point. So you get that freshwater influx into the marine environment, the dropping water temperatures. There are a lot of stripers on the Raritan Bay. Just at this point, they do seem to have lockjaw. Now, I am always the eternal optimist, of course, but I'm looking at the weather forecast just after this moon, and it looks mostly warmer and dry through this weekend, which is, I think, is just what the doctor ordered. In terms of the ocean conditions, according to the NOAA weather forecast, which shall not be used for gambling purposes, I remind you, inshore waters from Thursday through Sunday night, after some spotty or sporty conditions on Wednesday into Thursday, things are definitely looking up for Friday, Saturday, and Sunday if you've got the boat splashed and you plan on heading out. Some local news and upcoming events to tell you about, but first let's head up to the Poconos. We're going to check in with that friend of mine, George Schauer, the Pocono outdoors guy.
Well, hey, thanks, Jim. You know, some nicer weather for sure, and we certainly need it. We've been fighting through some crazy weather over the past few weeks, but things look like they're starting to turn around. Hopefully we'll have a great weekend coming up and get ourselves into a couple of those good fish. And what's running right now, we got to talk about the shad run, because that's certainly been picking up over the last few days. Hopefully things will continue to pick up. You know, Kevin Ingram checked in. He was out, landed about 20 on the Delaware, he said, with a nice couple of really nice roe in the mix as well. So good work there, Kevin. Also, John Augustine from Hardcore, yeah, he checked in. He also got a few on the river as well. So things are certainly looking up on the Delaware River. Now that's really important, because starting today is the bi-state shad fishing contest. Just want to wish good luck to all the contestants there, and hopefully there's a bunch of good shad in the mix. And a big thank you to Eric Fissler for turning that into a great event each and every year. So good work there, Eric. Also, I want to talk a little bit about the trout. You know, that's still dominating things this time of year. A couple of good trout. You know, Eric Goodstall checked in. He's down Northampton County getting in a bunch of really nice brown trout. Also locally, right up here, Jeremy Green in the Pocono area getting himself into some nice real rainbows. Also, this is happening in New Jersey, some browns, some rainbows as well. So good trout fishing all over, guys. Now moving up back to the Delaware River, I had Jack Lane check in. Well, he actually got a hybrid striper right on the Delaware River, right by the Neshaminy Creek area on bloodworms. And also Rick Stevens checked in, the 39-incher he got up on the Bucks County area of the Delaware, and he got that on some bloodworms as well. Now, just to mention, guys, as these stripers move up, you know, they're chasing the shad up the river. You're going to see some good shad moving from those tidal areas up into those non-tidal areas, and you can throw things like those NLBNs or even those tsunami poppers like we gave away at the show. If you got a new or renewed your subscription with the Fisherman Magazine, we gave you one of these, so you should already have one in your tackle bag for sure. Guys, still lots of good fishing. I hope you get a chance to get out this weekend and get on them. But from Pennsylvania, I'm George, your Pocono Outdoors guy.
So about 30 miles east of where I am in Fairfield right now, the folks at Tackle World in Rochelle Park are hosting a special event this Sunday, April 28th, with the folks at Shimano. Noted experts like Alan Lee of Mushin, waterman Adam Shear, Benny Ortiz, Jerry Malonga, and Jesse Wynn hosting a roundtable workshop of sorts. A great door prize from the folks at Shimano and OSHA Jigger. Visit tackleworld.com today to get all the details on that event. Also, this Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, back down to where I live in Brick, the folks from DNR Boats will host their annual spring demo days. That's April 26th, 27th, and 28th. Factory incentives, rebates, you can climb aboard a Robalo, a Steiger, Finseeker, Crownline, or Ranger boat, whatever it is you're looking for this season to splash down yourself. You'll find it over there at Brennan Boats on Route 70. That's where Forge Pond meets the Matitaconk. That's Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. Like I said, check that out. Congratulations, by the way, to the folks at Ray Scott's Dock in Margate with some very exciting news this season. They had a brand new 40-foot pontoon boat built this season by the folks at Trident Pontoons that will set sail for Back Bay summer flounder excursions out of that Margate-based dock. And it's aptly named in honor of one of the nicest people I ever met in the recreational tackle world, the late Robin Scott. Make a point to stop by Scott's Dock, check out the brand new Captain Robin Scott, and maybe do a little bit of flounder pounding behind Margate sometime this season. I'll remind you, the folks here at Fairfield Tackle are busy getting things in order for the fluke season and everything else that's snapping. We've got the gulps, we've got the bucktails. They've got every shad that you need, every plastic shad, every rig, every sinker, freshwater salt. Make sure you stop by. We are, of course, I will remind you, this countdown. We are 9 days out from the New Jersey fluke season. Again, it's 3 fish, 18 inches, starting May 4th, unless you're down on Delaware Bay, on the Jersey side, west of the coal regs. Then it's 3 at 17 inches, and it's just 2 at 16 inches if you're fishing from the surf at Island Beach State Park. We are getting some good flounder reports by every day out of the folks at Lewis Harbor Marina in Lewis, Delaware. That season, of course, summer flounder season never closes in Delaware. On that side of the bay in Delaware, 4 fish at 16 inches through May 31st, then it increases to 17.5 inches as of June 1st. But there are some solid reports of bluefish as well down along the Delaware Bay shore and the Delaware coast as well. So things are falling into place the way they should. Bluefish, weakfish, striped bass, blackfin, blackfin, black drum, bluefin. We do have the bluefin, no yellowfin yet, way too early. But the bluefin are here. It's all going strong here in the New Jersey, Delaware Bay region. I do forecast that the fact that those stripers on the Raritan are hungry, they are going to start snapping. I might add on the freshwater side, northern pike, a very unique fishery. If you've got northern pike on your bucket list, you don't have to travel out of state anymore. The Passaic has a really nice northern pike bite. You could stop in here to Fairfield Fishing Tackle. They'll get you geared up, and I'm sure Cheryl and Joe will probably point you in the right direction. Just, shh, keep a lid on it, you know what I mean? We'll talk more about fluke next week, I'm sure, because we're on the precipice of a brand new fluke season at the Jersey Shore. So I'll see you again next week right here at thefisherman.com.